Hello and welcome to Offset with King and the Big Man. Alongside the Big Man, that's Jay Caufield, and our buddy Dave Ricchini. I'm Rob King. We thank you for being with us here at North Park Lounge, and we thank One Team Production for putting this all together for us. By the way, the North Park Lounge in Cranberry, Brad Dressen, former college teammate of Jay's, football teammate of Jay's, a great place. We love it here. Also want to thank the Rourke Automotive Group and the Rourke Automotive Advantage, which offers lifetime engine warranty, lifetime state inspection, and lifetime oil changes on all new vehicle purchase. Thank you to Rourke Automotive for being a sponsor of Offset with King and the Big Man. You know, guys, I wanted to talk at least briefly about the Baseball Hall of Fame inductions, which happened since our last podcast. I'm sad that Dave Parker didn't live to see it, but happy to know that he knew he was a Hall of Famer, because I feel very strongly there were three guys that I thought were serious omissions, and there are others that I think belong on this list. Tony Oliva, who got in a couple years ago, Dave Parker, and Dick Allen. And my argument for them is the discussion that we would have really about all sports, not just baseball. How long do you have to be great? Tony Oliva was great for 10 years. 3 batting titles, I believe he won in that time. Dick Allen was great for 11 years. Dave Parker was great for 5 years and had pop-up years of greatness. To me, I'm comparing greatness for an extended period of time versus being like maybe really good for a long period of time. I would love your guys' take, Jay, on what you think should get you in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think if you have a long career, then you have championships that go with it. I think that's going to give you that kind of bump to maybe get voted into whatever sport you're in, whatever Hall of Fame it would be. I think that has something to do with it. It shouldn't be on that. I mean, but if you're a part of whether it be Stanley Cups or Super Bowls or winning the title in MLB, I think that has a big piece if you have a long career, but you win championships that go with it. That means you're a piece. I think then you get viewed a little bit differently. There's a piece that what you bring in a leadership role. You know how to win. I think that helps teams, helps players. If you're that guy that has a long career, but not the most outstanding career in whatever sport it is, I do think, and I find it. I think, we've talked about this before. I really, you don't want a Hall of Fame to be diluted, right? I said, I wonder how many players that are in the Hall of Fame, if you asked them, Dave, if you went through a list of all the guys and they could silently vote and go, if they gave them a list of guys that are in, how many would they not want in the Hall of Fame with them? A Hall of Fame, when we grew up, all I ever wanted to do was go to Canton. I wanted to see what what it was like for the NFL Hall of Fame. But as you go over the years and some guys get in, I bet there's questions from a lot of players of what they are. But I do believe longevity, championships that go with it, it means you're a leader, you're part of winning, you know how to win. And on top of the great careers that guys have had, whether it be shorter, but they were stellar. But I think it was a blend of both, Rob. But I think if you're long, in a longer career, you have to have championships that go with it.
I think the guy you just talked about is Eli Manning. I mean, you never think of Eli Manning as being one of the elite quarterbacks. If you say when he was playing, okay, you can have any quarterback you never say Eli Manning, but multiple Super Bowl titles, and he played for a long time. Was consistent. Again, to your point about the championships, beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl a couple of times. So I think that's.
But he also played in New York. So what you're describing, Tony Oliva won a World Series in Minnesota. Dave Parker won 2 World Series in Oakland and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
If you win those World Series with the Yankees, look at Sandy Koufax, for example. Sandy Koufax, look, I'm not saying Sandy Koufax doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. I think he does belong in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. But he had 5 or 6 great years. Now, they were some of the greatest years, maybe the greatest years in baseball history. But he won World Series, and he was pitching in L.A. Yeah. He started in Brooklyn, and then he was pitching in L.A., 2 huge markets. What we never saw with him was a decline period. We never saw him get old and go 7-11. Maybe he would have quit before that happened. But how many great players have we seen have that period of decline? And now all of a sudden you're wondering, well, is he a Hall of Famer or isn't he a Hall of Don Mattingly, is he a Hall of Famer or isn't he a Hall of Famer? He was great for a period of time. Then we saw a decline because of the back injuries. I think there's room for both. But you're right, Jay. You also don't want to be diluted. I just think if you're great for a period of 10 years, and I also think maybe it would behoove selection committees to talk to players from an era. I would guess that the players who went against Dick Allen, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but I've interviewed some players from that era, would say he was the most feared hitter in the National League for a decade. I think that's good enough.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't get to 2,500 hits or 400 home runs, I think that's good enough.
I watched him in Philly. So, as a Phillies fan, or you're growing up and you watch him, Dick Allen was there, and I think there's you just, the three names you mentioned, from Parker to Dick Allen to Oliva. I'm sure if you polled people on those three players, if you polled players that are in it, they all would agree that they should be him. I'm not sure what takes them so long. Like I'll go back on one thing. Do they have to have a certain number in every year? Like, why are they forcing that down your throat, right? I don't think they should do that, but there are certainly players that they leave hanging for a long time that should be in. And I said, I believe if you went through MLB and players that are in the Hall of Fame in baseball, they would have thought those three that you mentioned, Rob, deserve to be in.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting too, because you talk about big market, small market. I mean, this is a complaint in every sport about everything, right? Because media markets, and is there a bias? You know, is a voter thinking in the back of his mind, well, so and so is a great player, but that's because they were always in the news. I remember when the Ken Burns' great documentary on baseball came out. Yeah. I was working in St. Louis at the time, and everyone out there was like, "How come there isn't more stuff on the Cardinals? It's all about the Yankees and the Red Sox. What about St. Louis?" So I mean, there's nuances that come with this, but I don't know. I think it's a fun debate. And Dave, when it comes to election time, I mean, there are guys I think we all wonder, why is he in the Hall of Fame? And I certainly have wondered why other guys aren't in the Hall of Fame. I believe it was several years ago, the Hall of Fame had a year in which nobody was elected.
Yeah.
That's not good for business, for one thing. Yeah. And it's not good for the Hall of Fame. No notoriety, no excitement, no people going up to visit the Hall of Fame.
I'm not sure how you can't not have somebody get in when we talk about guys
right.
How you're getting, you know, after they've passed away, and you don't have a year, you put somebody in. I don't agree with that, but I made the comment about, if it's a year that you don't feel there should be 4 players, why jam a fourth one down the throat of the fan base, who then question what's going on? And that's in every sport. That's in all of them, right? So you see them, and the guys, everybody knows who has a Hall of Fame career. We across the board, this panel right here, we have all said Rick Tocchet is a Hall of Fame
for me.
NHL player. He's
the Dave Parker of. Yeah. I've said this before. It's not a perfect comparison, but I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that he did every phase of the game, worked his way from being a fighter and did what, you know, when I say fighter, not like no. Mike Keenan gave him an opportunity. He fought his way to stay in a lineup, and then just honed his skills over time in every phase, and then he wins. Right? He's won. I think his coaching career is that'll help revisit Rick Tocchet being in the Hall of Fame. But that's one player. I know we all feel that way. But I find that when you're looking at, are you losing, when you're seeing some of the names that get into whatever Hall of Fame it is, are we kind of going, all of us going and reading going, really, is that a Hall of Famer? Mm-hmm. That's what I do.
Right.
I should be for when you walk in and you want to see the best of the best. And that's what I said. I'd like to know. I wonder if players quietly go, really? Is that guy in?
So my case for Rick Tocchet is that he did everything you wanted to do, as you mentioned, for probably a stretch of maybe 5 years. Mm-hmm. Like they always talk about, Dave Parker was the best player in baseball, the best for 5 years. To me, if you're going to start a team back in those days when fighting was part of the game, you know, scoring is always part of the game. Sticking up for your teammates had to be valued even more than it is in today's game, because guys drop the gloves. I think if you polled the executives, they would have said, okay, first team right wing, give me Rick Tocchet. You know, center, give me Mario. Right wing, give me. And I'm not saying those are two. Yeah. You know, I'm not comparing them as players. I'm just saying this is the guy you would want. There's value in that. And then what happened to his career? Well, he got hurt. Why? Because he played hard. Yeah. That's like Parker, too. Parker, remember, he broke his jaw, and then he came out with they said you're going to be out for a couple months. He was back like a week later with a football helmet on. Yeah. Rick Tocchet broke his jaw and then got in a fight.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you know, he's got the protector on. He gets. I mean, to me, the comparisons are it's almost eerie. And they played around. You know, they played in Pittsburgh, but I don't know. To me, that's when I think of Rick Tocchet. I think there should be room for guys like that in the Hall of Fame.
I also, and Dave, I'll throw this out about Tocchet. We'll bring this back around into our different topic. The amount of the amount of time and dedication it takes to thrive in any sport today, like to really be that player, you sacrifice a lot to do that. You make decisions based off of, I can't go away in August. I got training camp in within a month, or all that goes with it. I mean, it's part of the deal and the pressure that goes with that. Rick Tocchet was that kind of a guy that had to do certain things and make sure he got himself prepared. And he had that ability when we came to Pittsburgh. He had the ability to be a on the line with Mario and play the game with Mario. Right. There is a separator right there. Right. Again, hard to find. Hard to find what he's done. I agree with it.
We all want our guys. Hey, play hard, play through injuries, and then when they play through injuries, like wow,
not he's he's not performing, whatever. Yeah, that is. I think everybody. Just ask Micah Parsons about that right now in Dallas, because he's not thrilled about the comments that came out about him being hurt or on the shelf when you put all your time in to be this elite player like a TJ Watt is for the Steelers. Injuries are going to happen in these in the sports that everybody's playing and what we played and. Stuff, but I think, again, going back to the Hall of Fame thing, Rick Tocchet is a perfect example of that, and he's won championships on top of being elite, in a different kind of way.
By the way, I also think that the hardest Hall of Fame of the four, and we're talking about the four major sports, NBA, you're going to get your points, your championships, your all-league, all that kind of stuff. Baseball, what numbers did you put up? That's always been part of the game. Same thing with the NHL. Football, I'm always baffled. How do you compare this middle linebacker to that corner, to this guard, to that center, to this safety? I just think it's the hardest sport to figure out.
And that was my point about looking at some of the guys is Terrell Davis for the Broncos only played 7 NFL seasons. Now he was great for those 7 NFL seasons, but was he a system running back? They had a lot of guys, Alandis Gary, Reuben Drones, that also came through that system with Gary Kubiak and were successful. And to your point, if he doesn't have a good offensive line and John Elway at quarterback, is he going to have those yards? So it's kind of the same point.
Yeah, of course, injuries are a part of the NFL, but you do wonder, you have to be. I think in baseball, we see all kinds of guys on bad teams get in. Remember the St. Louis Cardinals for years didn't have an NFL Hall of Famer. You're like, well, some of those guys were, Roger Worley was pretty good. Dan Dierdorf was pretty good. Larry Wilson was pretty good. Yeah. But, Jerome Bettis was in St. Louis when I was there, came here. What got him in the Hall of Fame? Coming to Pittsburgh. What got Steve Young in the Hall of Fame? Would he have been in the Hall of Fame if he spent his whole career in Tampa? I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to project what would have happened. He got to San Francisco. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And well-deserved. I'm just saying it's such an ultimate team sport. To me, that is the most difficult Hall of Fame to figure out.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think if you go into the hockey side of it, let's flip to that for a second. And you take somebody like Pierre LaRouche, like one goal away from a milestone goal kind of thing. Yeah. Is he in? Does he get that opportunity? He's been part of cup teams, and we're going back in time a little bit, but the same things. There's numbers, and where do they look at it, and who's honestly, if you hit a certain number, does that mean all of a sudden, hey, you should be in it? So there's going to be beefs on all of it, and I think we've all made our points about the idea that I just feel that I think I look at it each and every year and go, I question, is that really what the Hall of Fame? Is that the kind of player that they're all looking at and going, yeah, he belongs in there with us? Because every player in there is thinking that.
So you brought up the sacrifices that pro athletes have to make, and that is a topic that kind of flared up. Scottie Scheffler had some very interesting comments, and I think it was during a tournament or before a tournament. I think it was during a tournament, post round, and he talked about how winning is very fleeting, right? You win and you raise the trophy and you're excited for X amount of time, and then you get back to the grind again. And he talked about trying to balance that with family, and he would rather be a good dad and a husband than be winning tournaments. Tom Brady then came out and said, well, why can't you be both? I think being a good husband and father or certainly a father is setting an example for your kids, and this is how you perform, this is how you succeed in life. Yeah. It really kind of kicked up a bit of a fuss, didn't it?
It did. Well, I think people with Tom Brady's company, people jumped on him because, he's got divorced and everything that goes with that. But that's not. I find that's Scottie Scheffler's feeling and his opinion, how he feels about the game. Because if you don't get right back to the grind after you win, because they have a tournament the following week, it is probably really hard to enjoy it. But you have to find, that's probably on him that he can't find that enjoyment any longer than a couple minutes, whatever it might be. But if you don't get back to work, then you get passed up, and what comes along is everybody going, well, he's falling off a little bit, or even though he's won
so
7
true.
times. That's the part.
Man.
And it's just like in hockey, they go, oh, you score 30, they're going to expect 35 out of you, right? You can't enjoy. As a goal scorer in hockey, when you put numbers up, there's the grind to make sure you keep producing, right? Always at the number and improve it. I do feel that I understand what Tom Brady's saying, right? Like, why can you not? But there are people that work every day in our world, whether it's at a restaurant, whether you're a doctor. My daughter's husband, my oldest daughter's husband, is an orthopedic surgeon. He's on the grind all the time. They have to. If you don't do that, now Scottie Scheffler also can say that when he's extremely successful, right? He's got a lot of money. If he didn't have golf, what would he be doing, right? So it's a different world. Like that goes with it. You're trying to provide for your family, whatever job you're doing, right? All of us. You're trying to do something where you're providing for your wife and your kids, and make sure everybody can have what you had growing up, or make it better, whatever it is. I do find what Tom Brady's saying. I get it. But I think people jumped on the idea that is he the right guy to say it?
Yeah.
But just because he ends up in a divorce doesn't mean he was wrong with what he was doing as far as putting his time in to work and to be prepared. Dave, you travel to Cleveland, you go back and forth. Rob, you're on the run all the time. I believe every person that does a job that's working to make money sacrifices something. So I don't think that's Scottie Scheffler's opinion. And it's that you don't hear that too often, but doesn't make what Tom Brady said wrong. Like what Tom Brady said is, I'm kind of like, you have to make both work. You have to make your job, your profession, work inside of your family life, and you're trying to do that to provide. And I do believe your kids learn from how you work and go out there and do your job. I believe they benefit from seeing what that's all about, because it's not easy. Not one job in our world, whether you're just at a restaurant, or you're working, you're on a trash truck, and every day you're out there, you're doing whatever your job is, all the way up to professional athlete. I mentioned Rick Tocchet. It's a grind. You put that time in. It's not the same as everybody else. You have to do the things to stay successful. And players like that do that. And they need to do that. And Scottie Scheffler does it in his golf world. So I did think it kicked up in Tom Brady's. Some people are getting after him because maybe just because how his world has played itself out as far as family and getting a divorce that didn't work well.
I kind of think that mindset helps Scottie, especially in that sport. If he's not putting the pressure on himself, if he's saying, I don't enjoy winning, it only lasts, maybe he's more, we're all golfers. If there's something if you're trying to beat me in a match, which you're constantly trying to do, you're putting more pressure on yourself. Trying is the key word there. But no, honestly, of the sports, I would say golf, if you can have that mindset going into it, there's a lot less pressure. You play some of your better golf if it's not in a tournament, you're out there by yourself just hitting your shots because you're carefree. I'm not saying he's not carefree. He obviously puts the work in to be the type of player he is on the course. But I think, compare that to Tiger. You saw Tiger wear his emotions on his sleeve and he wasn't playing well. And he was dominant. But he also tried to get better and better and better. And eventually, take the car wreck out of it. He had a lot of injuries because he was trying to make himself into something that maybe his body couldn't afford to be. Scottie goes about it a different way. Maybe that's why he's so successful. Maybe if he had that mentality that Tom Brady did, because Tom Brady come off the football field, and if he made a bad pass, you could see it. He's wearing out his teammates. He expresses emotions. Yeah. Maybe, they're different sports.
I'll just have one thing. I'll just say this.
Go, please.
And you look at Tom Brady, that's a guy who had to make his way. Nobody had him on the radar. We all know the story about Tom and how he turned himself, what he ended up making himself into from where he was drafted. So a chip on his shoulder and then driving and was relentless with it. And I also will say it's an easier thing to say when you've got sponsors, you've won a lot of money already. It's the guys. What about the guys that are grinding each and every day to try and just make the cut or make the tour, be on the tour, be on the night, the secondary tours. It's a grind. So, but yeah, again, I respect, that's his opinion and feeling, and I think that's a good point, Dave. But Rob, I think that it's an easier thing to say when you're pretty much settled in and been compensated really well in the golf world. It's tough if you don't have any money and you're grinding on the tour. It makes your family life, it makes it a little bit more difficult. It's tough.
Right, but if he didn't care about winning, if it was just about the money, why not join Live? I'm sure they would be.
No. I'm not saying that.
No, I'm saying for Scottie.
Yeah,
I mean,
Scottie?
if it was just about providing for his family and golf wasn't important to him, why not join Live?
Well, here's why. Here's the other. I'll jump on that real quick. You don't have to. He's still young. So he's made his sponsors everything. Look what he's won on the tour. I mean, and I know the other guys that jumped too. They had sponsors and all, they won with that. But I just think there's easier decisions made when you look in your bank account and go, oh, there's a lot of zeros in that thing behind a number. So
over 90 million in career earnings on the PGA.
There you go.
As opposed to
that's career earnings on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
Not even looking at what his sponsorship deals are.
The numbers vary, but I've seen over 160 million.
So
Okay,
I would also say
easier.
this. I think the only contribution I would make to that is culturally, as a society, we value winning. Probably, I don't know if there's another culture in the world that values winning more than our culture. Yeah. That's part of our culture. But I think what it comes down to me, is mentality and attitude. Right? Like I think you can be all the things that we've talked about and still be happy. There's a song when we were growing up before your time, everybody's working for the weekend. And I remember thinking when that song came out, well, I don't want to be that guy, right? I don't want to just be working, you work 40 hours a week or more, most people in our culture, and that's your satisfaction is what you do in the weekend? I don't want to be that way. I want to enjoy my job, and I think you can enjoy your job. Now, probably some jobs are easier to enjoy than others.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a fascinating topic. We could fill many.
We could.
Get a psychiatrist in here, a sociologist.
It's nice to have an
in here.
option. Yeah, it's nice.
Right.
I mean, he's that good and he's that driven.
Right.
He's that driven to win, and that he's not able to enjoy it any more than he is. But I guess whatever. What he does on the golf course is outstanding. He's that good. He's number one. And but everybody has a different view and a different opinion, and I think probably somebody might want to try and enjoy it a little longer if you can. But it's that drive to be number one that gets him right back out there to do the work that he does. That's what separates. That's why I said the elite players, from Michael Jordan, Mario Lemieux. We talked about Rick Tocchet, guys who in the hockey world, they have to put that pressure's on them all the time. You're paid in golf. You have to earn it. Right, you have to earn each every week and win. When you're on a team sport and you're the guy, the heat that comes on you each and every day, the ones that handle it the best and the ones that can take it out and just do their thing, that's why they're elite. That's why they're the best.
So this brings to mind one final thing that I'd like to talk about here, which is, because since we're talking about golf, tennis, there's sports, individual sports with major championships, right? So you win Wimbledon, that's a major championship. You win all the tournaments leading up to Wimbledon, those aren't major championships, right? So same thing with golf. I mean, we've seen guys that have won 8-10 times on the tour, made passels of money, right? They're going to retire, their kids will probably be fine and all that other stuff. Every once in a while, there's a pop-up guy who wins a major, and that's kind of it. So my question to you is, would you rather be a golfer who won, say, 8 times over the course of your career, or would you rather be a golfer who won a major tournament? Just one major tournament.
As I look at the numbers that they're paid, the total purse that's out there right now, if you asked me that question 25 years ago, the major's going to be the better thing because the purses weren't as big as they are today, right? But still good, but not as big. And it's the perks that you get with winning a major, right, that goes with it. Lifetime exemption on certain things, 5 years on all the other majors that are out there. All those things would have made you say 20-some years ago, oh, I'd rather have a major. And I still think guys would rather have won a major.
Right.
But if you look at the purse sizes that are out there, if you won 8 times out there over your career and the purse to win, not a major, some of the other ones that are out there, the invites, almost $4 million for the winner. So 3 to 4 million, the numbers are pushing that.
So it's a money versus fame question, and you can do that. You could do that. You could do that in any profession.
Okay.
Right? We talk about it in music.
Yeah,
and,
that's right. It's true.
And in movies or what have you, authors. Right.
Yeah.
You want one bestseller, or you want sort of a string of and would you have rather written? Oh my goodness gracious! It's the book. The woman just came out with another sequel before she passed away. They made a movie out of it. Gregory Peck, Boo.
Rob stumps us on these questions all the time. He's
from the
deeper than
author.
us.
This is from the author
He's deeper
over
than
here.
us. That's right. He's the author.
Oh my goodness!
Rob is way deeper than us.
Anyway, would you rather write one great book or a string of books? So one that's held up as a great, a classic. They call it, the great American novel, or a bunch of books that are pulp fiction, and you make a lot of money, and you have a place in Capri, and it's the same thing in sports, right?
Dave, what do you have to say first before I go on a rant?
What would I rather have?
Yep.
Fame or money?
I'd like to spend more time with my family.
Okay.
Focus on that. That's a joke. I'll take
Went
the
over like a
Masters.
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'll take the Masters. 'Cause
Yeah.
think of- I want the notoriety. I mean, if I mention the name Danny Willett, you'll remember Masters winner.
Mm-hmm.
If he won, I don't know if he won any other tournaments in his career. I have no idea. You mentioned the exemption. I'd love to be an honorary member at Augusta. Go down there whenever I want. And you're still going to make some, even though you're not winning those other tournaments, you're going to make some money by finishing, by getting that 5-year exemption for
Sure.
the other tournaments. You're
Sure.
going to make some, if you can have both. You can have your cake and eat it too.
Well, I think when you start seeing some of the sponsors fall off a guy's shirt, and then you go because you're not winning anymore.
Yeah.
I am not saying I would not want a major. I get that point totally, Dave, and I'm going to say that. So if JJ Spawn in 20 years from now, JJ Spawn never wins another tournament, but he won the U.S. Open, but he's clawing his way to try and find his way back to supremacy or get up there. I'm using him as an example because he just won here. But I find that if you walk in a door somewhere and 20 years from his win, is that going to buy him? Is that going to pay the bills kind of thing? That's
Right.
what they're young. I mean, we're talking guys in their 20s and 30s in their prime. And then if you fade away from the sport that you put your whole life into, you're finding another profession if it's not working anymore, right? That's, to me, I know I'm going on that side. It's all of us are always trying to. You'll hear guys in football go, "Hey, you're not going to take my money away from me, my food on the table." Right. That's what I'm going with. I mean, I'm sitting there going, I think we want a major and all the perks that go with it. But if you clipped off 5, 6 tournaments that paid you $2 to $4 million, and you start to build it that way, that's how I'm looking at it. Because literally, fame is fleeting, as we all know.
Right.
You win something. You mentioned Danny Willett, right? So, but at the same time, if it gets away from you, your game or your talent, and then they go, "Oh, he's 40 now. He's done. Maybe he can make it on the senior tour." I'm telling you, good luck.
Well, you paint a it's so easy. You dug into To Kill a Mockingbird. So
There we
thank
go.
you.
Told you,
So there we go.
so much deeper than us.
You could say the same thing probably about J.D. Salinger. Anyway, or somebody that's written a string of books that have been successful. Anyway, sorry. This is a sports show, isn't it?
It is, but that's
so
very good.
I do think that it's easy to say fame or money, but now you start to bring in just exactly what you're talking about, clawing around. And now instead of staying at the nice hotels because you're on tour and you're winning some money here and there, you're clawing back in, and you're piling the family in the car and driving from motel to motel and trying to make a living. So those are the kind of things that you don't think about when you think about the whole fame versus money thing.
Yeah.
Because what happens when that dries up?
It's a tough. All our businesses are tough, but it's really tough in that kind of sporting world. When you're an independent contractor too, you're doing your own thing. You're paying for your cat. Your caddy gets a piece, this and that, everything that goes with being a professional golfer. And then again, I talked about sports and what it means, that what it's like when you start to deteriorate or go away or banged up, and what it means when somebody looks at you and you're 30 years old now, and some 18-year-old gets drafted, and you have to fight your way to stay on the rock. There's a lot that goes with it. I think all of it's wonderful to have if you had a major and what that went, what that means.
We want to thank the Rorick Automotive Group, who have the Rorick Automotive Advantage that offers lifetime engine warranty, lifetime state inspection, lifetime oil changes on all vehicles you purchase with the Rorick Automotive Group. We thank them for being
great
a
service.
sponsor
They
of
do an
Offset
outstanding
with
job.
King and the Big Man. Want to thank One Team for their production of this podcast, and of course our home away from home here, the North Park Lounge in Cranberry. For Dave Ricchini and of course the Big Man, Jay Caufield, I'm Rob King. Thanks for watching this edition of Offset with Kinger and the Big Man.